So here's basic boundaries, right? And like I said, this can kind of come off as just like, just do everything perfectly. It's amazing. And great. I'm really glad that we talked about all these boundaries. This is really awesome. I don't know how the heck to set up any of those. Like, I feel like I suck at all of these. I cannot figure out where a relationship boundary should be. I can't figure out where to, like, my physical boundaries, my attention, anything. Like, it's just rough. Like, I'm literally coming to this class, like this thing, because I'm hoping that we don't just talk about what good boundaries are, that we actually have some way to freaking like do something about it, right? I hate when you go to classes and it's like that. I'm hoping that right now this will start to turn into that. I want to talk about a concept. This is something that I kind of discovered as I was thinking about this. Because when you're talking about like behavior and like a lot of these kind of things, it's really easy to just be like, oh yeah, I should definitely do it this way. And then you just never do it. I should definitely learn to say no more. But then like, now what? Great. I'm glad I realized this part of my life that kind of sucks. You know? Part of why these are difficult is because all of these boundaries are outward. And here's what I mean by that. These have to do with what you do. It's a lot of, I will do this, I won't do this. I will allow this in my life. I won't allow this in my life, right? I will hang out with these kind of people. I will spend my money this certain way. I will use my time this certain way. I will behave this certain way. It's about stuff that you do and the way that you interact with people outside of yourself, for the most part. A lot of issues end up stemming from a fear of being disliked or seen in a negative light. Most people don't care or have a problem with how others perceive them. Those of us who do worry about it tend to be the same people who overwork and are afraid to say no. I realized that recently. Yeah, I totally agree that that's a big reason why I feel like a lot of people overwork and are afraid to say no. I would guess that people care about what other people think a lot more than they might think they do. Because I just feel like that's part of the human condition of like, we're trying to impress everybody. We're trying to figure out if we matter, if we're loved, if we're cared for, and even people that wouldn't necessarily admit that, or it doesn't seem like it's really obvious in their life. I feel like that is a thing. Okay, so these are outward boundaries, guys. These are outward boundaries, which means that they have to do with things that you do, your actions, how you interact with the world, right? And so it's basically like, all right, here's us. All right, here's you or me or us. And then what we're trying to do generally, I mean, if you're coming to something like a boundaries workshop, is you want to figure out, okay, how do I set up great boundaries? Like, I know this fence is important, right? This wall is important. Let's say it's a wall. Okay. This is a wall fence. I don't know. I know that this is important. So how do I actually build that in my life? Well, the thing is, I believe that yes, this is important, but what's more important is what goes on in here. What is essential to setting up outward boundaries is setting up boundaries in your mind and heart. Outward boundaries can only be effective with good inner boundaries. So outward boundaries, when it comes to where I go and what do I do, those can really only be built well when you have good inner boundaries. Even if you don't know what inner boundaries are, if you can understand that what you do and how you interact with the world is based on how you interact with yourself and what goes on in your mind and your heart. Here's what I mean by this. Let's say we have a little baby toddler. This is Jeffy, the wild toddler. The first thing that you do generally, besides hyperventilate, panic, soil yourself, and regroup and come up with the next plan, is you put a gate up. Like, you start to gate that toddler in so that they can't fall down the steps. Put up the child gate. And that keeps the baby in. You establish boundaries. So here's the thing. Our mind is like a toddler. It's really fun to let it run free. But the thing is, if you love this toddler, slash if you love anything around you that you don't want broken, you put up boundaries. So what we do is we cage the baby. All right, we put a playpen around the baby. If our mind is like a toddler, we kind of assume that it can go just anywhere we want. It's kind of okay for our mind to kind of wander wherever we want. And that's kind of, I feel like, how a lot of us approach life half the time. We will take any thought that pops into our mind, any message that we hear from somebody else, just any kind of thing that pops up in our life, and we'll just take it and give it full attention. It doesn't matter what it is. Everything's on the table, everything's considered, because we don't have anything around our toddler to keep him where he needs to be in safety. And so instead, when it comes to our mind, let's say our heart, okay? Because it's like our mind and heart, our feels, our soul, that kind of thing, right? What happens is we get told all kinds of stuff every day. And this is from ourselves, this is from other people, this is from life, this is everything. From, hey, you're doing a great job, to you suck, to you're ugly, to nobody will love you, to all of those things that we start to hear. They just come at us all the time. Good, bad, kind of normal stuff. All of that stuff goes into our heart, goes into our mind, right? All of that. And if we don't have any boundaries, guess what gets in? Absolutely everything, all of it. You ever wonder why you might be stressed? You ever wonder why you might feel anxious? Why you might feel depressed? I'm not saying that that's like 100% of it, but a big factor with those things, I'm convinced, after talking with a bunch of people. We have all these things coming at us all the time. And it can be from our family, from our significant other. It could be from our boss. It could just be from things that we think are true, fears that we have. Man, this can come from all kinds of things. It can come from fears. That's a big one. Relationships, family, media, the list goes on, right? And if we don't have any boundary, then everything gets in. And what's going to happen is Jeffy the wild toddler, because he's uncaged, is going to go do whatever he wants because there's no cage around him. There's no baby gate. There's nothing. And where this is dangerous is we think, all right, I need to put some good boundaries in. Like, these are important. The internet says this is important. You know, you hear this in self-help books and such. I need to have good relationship boundaries. I need to have good physical boundaries, right? I need to be better with time management. I need to be better with money. I need to be better, blah, 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 right? And you ignore the fact that, well, outward boundaries can only be effective with good inner boundaries. That means that Jeffy the wild toddler needs some gates around him. We need to deflect some of this stuff from our heart. Because here's the thing. If this is you, this is me, right? If I'm not worth something, why would I have good boundaries? Who cares? Sucks because we have to be both the toddler and the parent putting up the gate. It's hard to do both. But here's the thing. Guys, this is the TLDR. If I'm not worth something, why in the world would I have good boundaries? How can you expect yourself to be good at any kind of healthy stuff, any of these kind of boundaries, if you don't feel like, if like you are consistently acting inside of your mind like you're a piece of crap?